Hey guys and gals, Perry here, and I am No One You Know for StoryToPixel.com. Today we are going to cover Cinema 4D and virtual reality. Now, Cinema 4D, unlike other 3D programs, does not have a spherical camera or a virtual reality camera that can see around 360 degrees by 360 degrees. However, you can use some expensive plugins that'll give this to you in certain renderers, but it turns out that is not needed. There is a little secret here, but there are caveats. What you do is you go to the content browser and go to presets, and under presets go to prime, and under prime you need to go to presets again, and then go to light setups, and then go to light environments, and in here you'll see something called bake environment. Double click it. There we go. And that puts it into your system. Now, what is bake environment? There's two different spheres in here. There is a full sphere and a top hemisphere. What this is used for is to create your own HDRI maps for reflections. Let's say you build a project and you can make your own maps and use it in another project for reflections, for lighting, that kind of thing. For our purposes, we do not need the top hemisphere, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase that. And we need the full sphere. Now what it is if you go down here, you'll notice this little 0.1 centimeter sphere. And it has a reflective material on it. It also has a big texture tag. Now that is where the fun comes in. Now, there is a problem. And I'll show you what it is. So I've got a setup of 4 objects here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to separate this so I can do 2 things at once. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, just for these purposes, I'm going to leave everything stock. Actually, I'm going to take the pixel border and turn it to 0. Okay. And I'm going to turn it into a ping. Need to go file path, save it as 0. Okay, so at 0, the sphere I'm going to leave at 0 for the heading, and I'll show you what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and bake here. Okay, and I'm going to take this and make it change direction 90 degrees, and then I'm going to rename this 90. Bake again. Now the thing is you would think that since the sphere itself is turning 90 degrees that you'll have 2 different views. That is not the case. Both of them are the same. The reason for that is because you don't have a UV map yet. So how do you get the UV map? It's very simple. You just turn it into an editable object, and then you see right here that the UVW tag is there. That locks everything in place. Now, is this going to make a difference? I'm going to go back and I'm going to change this to 0 again. And now I'm going to hit editable. And then I am going to go up here, rename that back to 0, and then I'm going to bake. So 90 degrees, going to change it to 90 for the heading, and we're going to change the name again to 90. Bake. Now let's take a look at it. You'll see it changes direction. But you'll also notice that it's really pixelated. It looks really bad compared to the original. Now why is that? Before, go back in my history, the object was only made up of 24 segments. So you have a 24 segmented sphere. which is really primitive. What you want to do is subdivide it even more. The max that you can do is 1,000. If you try like 1,001, it just gives you 1,000. So now you've broken it up into 1,000 segments. That should give you a nice resolution. And we're going to do it again. We're going to hit C to turn it back into an editable. And then I'm just going to go here, just for giggles, I'm just going to leave it here and just hit bake and see what it does. Okay. Now, it's still pretty pixelated. Not as much as it was before. But if I take this, you can see that looks pretty bad. Now, there's a workaround. Let's go ahead and close this. Gonna go back into my history. Okay, we're back to having a regular object, a regular primitive, and it's going to render perfect. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call this 0. And we're just going to see what the difference is between the two. 0, 0, 0, 0, bake. Now, I am going to create a new sphere. Now that's huge. That's 100 centimeters. We don't need it to be that big. Make it 10. Again, 1,000. Make editable. Okay, now I'm going to transfer these items. Make a copy, transfer them to here. Go into the bake texture tag, call this big. Okay. So now, when we bake, it should be a big difference. I'm going to open both of these up in Photoshop. Okay, so we have the 0 reflection and we have the big reflection. I'm going to take the big reflection, dump it on top of the old one. I'm going to zoom in here so we can see the difference. There's going to be a slight difference because it's a difference between the reflection from a very small sphere to a much larger one. So now we basically here have a camera that works for virtual reality. However, which way is forward? Forward, when it comes into equirectangular, be whatever is in the center of the 2x1 shot. And that is very critical. Let's go ahead and take this and make it, I'm going to make it 4,000 by 2,000. Must be 2 to 1. Okay. If you do video, you need to make the frame rate at least 60 frames. You need to go into the project settings also. I would create a new project, and in that project settings, make sure this is set to 60, and that and I would set up like a 600 frame 10-second type deal. And I'll do this. I'll show you something right now. And equirectangular. This right here is the center of the shot. It wraps around your head 360 degrees. So this sphere is totally behind you, and this object right here is totally in front of you. Now, the problem is you can't tell by looking at this what that is. So how do you get around that? Well, let's do it this way. I am going to take a camera, and what I'm going to do is we're looking through it now. I'm going to set it up at 0 all the way around. Now right now it's in our sphere. We don't want it to be that way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the top view. We're actually going to leave this up because we're going to zoom in on the top view. and we're going to move the camera backwards on the z-axis, actually forward on the z-axis, until we can actually see something. All right. I'm actually going to make this camera a little bit wider. Like, let's say 18. Okay. So now we have a camera to look through. But is it aligned properly? Let's find out. So the camera right now is looking at the cone. We want to change it to look at the cone here. So it looks like we're going to have to take the sphere according to the last one that we did, and we'll have to move it probably to this direction right here. So from here to here. So move it to the left 90 degrees. So negative 90 on the sphere in our directions. So I'm going to put this at negative 90. And I'm just going to pull this up here and see what it looks like. Going to bake it real fast. Just say yes. Get it out of the way. Oh, didn't look like that worked. So try it again. Let's try it at 0. Okay, we had a little bit of a problem here. I had Bake Texture tag open for the previous one. So that's why when I moved things, it wasn't reflecting in here in the screen for the bake. So now I've got the sphere at 0. That's what it looks like now. So it looks like we need to do negative 90 on the sphere for the heading. So negative 90. And then if I bake now, okay, so the camera's pointed at the cone, the sphere is pointed at the cone, so they are linked. So this is what we're going to do now, is I'm going to take the sphere and I'm going to make it a child of the camera. Hit bake again. Okay, cone, cone. So now if I take the camera and turn it 90 degrees, it should turn the sphere 90 degrees too. Let's see what it does down here. And it's looking at the cube here, and it's looking at the cube here. It looks like we got work done. Okay, so now we have a camera set up. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the old bake environment, and I'm going to take this camera and I'm going to copy it. So I created a project here, and basically what it is 4 camera setup, and I'm going to do a morph animation between it just to make it simple. I'm using Grayscale Gorilla's City Kit. Just made a quick animation. That's basically what it is going to look like between the 4 cameras. Now it's critical that when it comes to VR that we not make the person wearing the headset sick. If we can put them on rails and move them from point A to point B in a straight path, or turn left, right, or go up and down. However, we want to keep looking straight ahead. We want the person wearing the headset to actually be able to turn their head to the left or to the right. If what they see it does not match what they feel, that can make them sick. So if you keep the moves gentle, and in this case I don't think I'm doing it that well, but it's just to show you what's going on. That's what you need to do, is keep the moves gentle if it's a Rails experience. And in this case, this is what it's going to be. So I've highlighted all 4 of these cameras. Go up to Create, Camera, and then you want to create a camera morph. And what it does is it takes these 4 cameras, and I'm going to turn this on so that you can see when I go down here to blend in the properties. Boom. Now I have a timeline 600, and you'll notice here that I have it set up at frame rate of 60 frames per second, and I also have it set up that way in the project settings, 60 frames per second. All right, it's important to keep those two the same, especially when it comes to VR, because it starts getting weird when you do animations and you're baking it out, and I'll show you. All right, so right now I need to set the animation. So I'm at frame 0, and I am going to create a keyframe, and I'm going to set it to 560. And I'm going to set another keyframe after I move it to 100%. So now, if I go back into the timeline, okay, so going back, now, going to drop our camera in there. So go back here, take our little camera rig, copy it, here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a child of the morph camera. And I'm going to turn on the morph camera to make sure everything is aligned, and it's not. So let's turn this to 0, everything 0 out. So now everything should be lined up. Okay, so we're looking through our new little camera setup with the sphere in tow. And just for giggles, let's go ahead and go to our bake tag, and let's see what it looks like. Make sure everything's lined up. And it looks like it is flipped. It is flipped. If you look at this white line here, and then this kind of brownish beigey building here, it's flipped compared to that. Now the reason it is because you are reading a reflection, and it's a mirror, so everything's going to be backwards. So the best thing to do is you would take the output, whether you have a ping sequence or something, whatever video output you put, dump it into After Effects and flip it in After Effects, and it'll be a proper orientation, because you really can't do it, as far as I know, in Cinema 4D this way. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the tag, and we're going to set the start time at 0, the start time at 600, frame rate at 60, and we are going to create, in this case, not a ping. I'm just going to do something fast, a QuickTime movie. Normally I would do a ping sequence and then dump it into After Effects, but we're just going to do a QuickTime movie, and this is going to take about an hour. There's a lot of stuff going on here. 4000 by 2000, and everything else I think we can leave alone. Yeah, so let's go ahead and hit bake. Hopefully I don't have to do that for every frame. Okay guys, we're back. You noticed a little problem here, that when I hit render, it says tile lines, JPEG, building lines. That means we have a mixing texture. In this case, this is in Grayscale Gorilla City Kit. If you go down here to the materials, hit OK, open up building, and within the reflectance, you'll see right here, tile lines, JPEG. So if I hit render again, tile lines, JPEG, and in parentheses it says building lines. And that right there is the material, building lines. So you look through building lines until you find it. And here it is, it's missing. Okay, so where is it? Well, what you do is you go to the content browser. Get out of that content browser. Trying to get work done here. And let's go to the content browser. And in this case, we're going to presets, into the Grayscale Gorilla City Kit, into the textures, and there is your missing texture. Just drag it, put it right on top of there, and everything should work now. Close it up, hit render. Everything's rendering beautifully. Okay, so go back to the bake tag, and we have 4000 by 2000 QuickTime Movie. Right down here, 0 to 600 frames at 60 frame rate. So that's about 10 seconds. And just for giggles, we're baking this particular texture here. So I'm going to drag it down into here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit bake. And this is going to take a while. So hang on, people. This is what we end up with after several hours. Now all you have to do is put it on your phone. You may have to change the format. It tends to get a little wonky over what your phone will take. That way you can look at it in Google Cardboard. This particular animation, to tell you the truth, moved too fast, and I should have made the buildings much wider apart. Because it is a little disconcerting while you're watching the animation. So that's it. So if you like this, go to the website story2pixel, pixel.com, and buy a book. You'll see it on the side there. And you'll also find scene files there also. So it'll be in the VR section. That's story2pixel.com. My name is Perry, and I am no one you know.